October is widely recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The recognition launched nationwide in October of 1987 to connect individuals and organizations working on domestic violence issues while raising awareness. Sunnyvale has received 223 domestic violence-related calls this year alone through September 19th, almost a call a day. Nationwide, that skyrockets to about 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines on a typical day. Domestic violence affects not only the victims, but their children, their families, and their friends. It knows no economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, or societal barriers. WomenSV is a free, confidential nonprofit organization based here in the Bay Area that provides support and connections to resources for women and children facing domestic violence, particularly coercive control. They offer an array of client services as well as community programs to bring awareness to and educate professional providers about the different forms of that domestic violence can take, such as legal, financial, and technological abuse. Ruth is here with us tonight to share a bit more about that organization and their work. Ruth, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Mayor Klein, honorable city council members, what an honor to be with you tonight and be able to help usher in October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you so much for inviting me. And Mayor Klein, I'm particularly grateful to you for presiding over this proclamation, because it's so important to acknowledge the many wonderful men in our community who are dedicated to protecting survivors from domestic violence. As you mentioned, my name is Ruth Darlene, and I run a domestic violence program based in Los Altos. It's called WomenSV, or Women of Silicon Valley. We serve women from our county, including Sunnyvale, but also from different parts of our country because of our unique focus on more subtle forms of abuse, the kind that doesn't always leave forensic evidence behind, but is still dangerous and can still cause tremendous damage to entire families. It's called coercive control, and it's a pattern of threatening, isolating, controlling behavior that can range anywhere from psychological manipulation to strangulation and everything in between. And it includes emotional, financial, legal, technological abuse. And it typically ends up turning an intimate partner into a prisoner in her own home, treating her like a possession, like property, a resource to use and use up and then dispose of if she starts to cause trouble or is no longer found to be useful. And that's what makes coercive control a lethality risk, because the ultimate right of property possession is disposal. So the vast majority of victims of this kind of abuse are female, and you can learn more about it from reading Evan Stark's book, Coercive Control: How Men Entrap Women in Personal Life. Over the past 12 years, WomenSV has served over 1,400 women suffering from this type of covert abuse at the hands of a partner who tends to have money, power, and influence. They tend to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, therapists, religious leaders, CEOs, professional people with a very positive public image, which makes it all the easier to hide a very different dark side behind closed doors that usually only his wife and children ever see. Most people know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, affecting 1 in 8 women. But even though domestic violence affects twice as many women, not nearly as many people know that October is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. 1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic violence in her lifetime. Globally, 1 in 3. So if it hasn't happened to you, it's happened to someone you know. So we're so grateful to you all in the city of Sunnyvale for shining a light on an issue that has remained hidden in the shadows for far too long. This year, you were saying that over 200 people have reached out for services from in the town of Sunnyvale, and some of them have reached out to WomenSV. We have served in the past year over 200 domestic abuse survivors. And in our weekly support group, they are able to meet one another and other brave survivors. They can share resources, lift each other up with words of comfort and encouragement. We cover a lot of ground in that support group, and we educate survivors about the different types of abuse and how to do safety planning around them all. And they meet women from all over the world, from many different cultures and religions and professions. But no matter how different their background is, they all share this common experience of being trapped in a relationship with a powerful, sophisticated abuser. There's a sense of solidarity, of sisterhood that develops in our group as they come to realize they're not alone anymore. There is a way out, there is a way forward. And afterwards, there's a whole new life waiting for them where they can begin to reclaim who they were before meeting this person who did so much damage to their family. But we do need to do a better job educating our young women and our young men about what controlling behavior looks like and how to address it once you've identified it. We all know that if somebody swears at you or makes a move on their first date, there's not likely going to be a second, but it's the more subtle forms of controlling behavior that can sneak up on a young woman and sometimes a young man before he knows it. For that reason, at WomenSV, we are developing a curriculum for teens and young adults with this very goal in mind, to help young people recognize early warning signs so they don't end up having to call us when they grow up. And we also do many trainings for providers, for doctors, for therapists, for religious leaders, for law enforcement, for court staff, to help them become more trauma-informed in serving this population. I also created a manual designed to help survivors tell their story about covert abuse and coercive control in a concise, linear format that can be adapted according to their audience and goals, because trauma can make it very difficult to put your story together in a coherent, linear fashion. So we're here to help survivors do just that. It's called the Executive Summary Workshop. And I'm excited to share that this manual will be presented as one of the workshops at this year's Santa Clara County's Domestic Violence Conference. And that's going to take place on Friday, October 13th in person this year at Villa Ragusa on 2nd Street in downtown Campbell. If you're interested in attending, we've sent the flyer to Victoria that has more details about it. In other news, I also recently did an interview with our local radio station, K-Love. So please stay tuned as it should be airing shortly. Some of you might be wondering, why all this attention on women in this wealthy area? Why don't they just leave? Or if it's a problem, don't they have the financial resources to do something about it themselves? Well, sometimes they do, but more often they don't. Most of our survivors are facing severe financial abuse where their partner has taken total control of the money or plunged them into terrible debt or threatened to render them homeless if they should ever leave. Many of them are facing bankruptcy, struggling to pay rent or put food on the table. That's one reason why we don't charge for our services and we rely solely on donations to keep our program going. And another reason we're so grateful for the support of community partners like El Camino Hospital District, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, the City of Los Altos and City of Cupertino. What a wonderful message it sends to survivors to know that the problem of domestic abuse is taken more and more seriously now. And now the City of Sunnyvale's proclamation adds to that support. So thank you, City of Sunnyvale, for playing a role in this progress by supporting survivors with this proclamation. Once we name it, once we call it out, it's the first vital step in addressing it and working to change it. Everyone, men, women, and children, all have a right to live in peace and safety in their homes. And this proclamation reminds us all of this fundamental human right, regardless of gender, sexuality, orientation. You all have a right to live in peace and safety in your own home. And what a message it sends having this proclamation so that survivors don't feel so alone anymore. So thank you for inviting me to speak tonight and for announcing with this proclamation that domestic violence survivors are not alone, not anymore. They have the City of Sunnyvale behind them. So thank you for announcing that this problem matters. They matter. Thank you for offering them fresh hope, which is so vital for every survivor of domestic violence, regardless of income, profession, or social status, because without hope, nothing else matters. Thank you for giving them that fresh hope and how blessed they are to have your support.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you for that message. And Ruth, on behalf of the Sunnyvale City Council, and really in gratitude for all the work that WomenSV does in support of those experiencing intimate partner violence. It's my great pleasure to have you join us, although remotely, as I proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So thank you for what you and all your volunteers do in making a difference in Sunnyvale and the whole Bay Area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Klein. Thank you, everyone.